My boyfriend ran off in the middle of the night with our newborn son. As title says, we have a newborn son who is 2 weeks old. To recap the period leading up to this event, we had the baby on a Thursday and came home on Saturday. Roses. Everything was absolutely beautiful. Our relationship had never been stronger and we were so happy. More in love with each other and with the little one than we thought possible. On Sunday we decided to pop a bottle of champagne. We both haven't drank for 9 months. I have 1 glass and he continues saying we can get drunk now. I didn't want to get drunk, but did not discourage him, since we hadn't drank in months. We used to drink together nightly. He ended up quite belligerent by the end of the night, and it resulted in tears on my end, since he was acting out of character. The next morning he sincerely apologized, and said that, if he ever got drunk like that again, he would stop drinking. That evening rolls around, and we have a glass of wine with dinner. I did not want another, but he continued to finish the bottle, and another. Drunk again, more tears. I explained to him, while he was drunk, the conversation we had the night prior about him not doing this, and he broke down, and came to bed, and promised not to again. After a week of being home, my mother begins to travel to us. We live in she lives in New York, to visit us for 2 weeks, to help get settled with the baby. This visit has been planned for 5 months, and was not a surprise. In the 2 days she is traveling, my boyfriend begins to transition from happy new father to protective new father. It is a difference, but he is very confident in his new role and feels that his life has changed, and he is very happy. My mother arrives at 8 AM on a Monday and proceeds to say hi to us, although quite exhausted, and goes to sit on our porch to decompress after 48 hours of travel. My boyfriend comes to me and says that she was disrespectful when she arrived. I question him and say, I'm pretty sure she's just tired. Let's let her rest, and then we can all have a conversation about boundaries and more once she's rested. He agreed and moved on with the morning. I didn't think anything else of it. At around 9:30 AM, 90 minutes after her arrival, she passes him in the kitchen, and he raises his voice and exclaims to her about how she will not be disrespectful of him in his house and more. I begin to bawl and beg him to stop. My mother, completely taken back, goes outside crying. My boyfriend is livid. I can see it in his eyes. I try to calm him down and go to check on my mother, who I then try to calm down. He comes outside and asks to speak to her, and I leave them alone. Hindsight, should not have done this, and after about 1 minute, my mom comes back inside yelling and crying I'm done, and tells me she is going to go back home. I try to speak to both of them, but I can't stop crying. Had a baby 10 days ago at this point. My mother packs up to leave and does. My boyfriend thinks he has done the right thing and protected his family unit. I'm devastated that my mom is gone as I wanted her help and guidance with the newborn. He is confident in his decision. In the next 2 days this confidence does not wane, and he says he had to hurt me in this situation to maintain his family. We went to bed around 11. We had argued some earlier in the evening, but when bedtime rolled around we were actually on good terms and I went to sleep pretty hard because of that. I wake up to a stranger shouting my name, and I look over, and the baby is not in his bed. I run out, and a policeman is in my house. The shower is running. The door is open. The policeman informs me that my boyfriend took the baby and ran out of our apartment building and to a house up the street and rang their doorbell. The officer asked me to come with him, and he took me to the house where my boyfriend went. There were many officers outside asking me questions about different things. The consensus was that my boyfriend thought someone was going to kill him, so he took the baby and ran. The officers took me inside the house, gave me the baby, and then let me know they were taking my boyfriend to the hospital for an evaluation. The officers took me to a hotel for safety. The hospital ruled the case a mental break, and that he was fine. He seemed fine when I picked him up, and we went home. As the day went on he got more and more paranoid, so I called the police. When he went to work, he insisted that I had bugged the house, that the neighbors were in on it, that my mom called our pediatrician, and more. The police suggested for us to separate for the evening and he stayed home, and the baby and I are in a hotel again. What should I do now? He is continually paranoid now. I have a baby to protect. I don't feel he is being rational in our home. Please help. Thank you for reading this. Reddit comments. He should be mentally evaluated, may have some type of mental disorder which untreated could get worse. I don't want to defend the guy, but this is so weird and extreme and his actions are so off. He doesn't seem there. Mostly at that age mental health stuff really starts to become apparent. Hijacking the top comment. This is not a mental break, this sounds like psychosis. He needs an admission to hospital and to start some medications. That or take the baby to your mother's house and separate yourself from him. Your baby's safety is paramount. What country and state are you in? It probably most helpful to give you specific advice. Sincerely, a mental health nurse. Edit. Can you talk to his family? Do you have a friend nearby you can stay with? Have you been in contact with your mom? If you are reporting this to a practitioner, these are the identifiable symptoms from your post. Focus of course on the incident with the police and subsequent paranoid delusions and monitoring in the house. Outline that whilst he does not wish to harm the baby, there is a direct risk of harm to the baby and others due to his impulsive erratic behavior and misadventure. Recent changes that all started since the birth of your child. Overall acting out of character. Impulsive, such as increased drinking, which is not something we would be doing due to caring for a newborn, or a habit prior to this. Extremely protective and paranoid of anyone else being near the baby except for myself. Misinterpreting interactions with my mother, and being loud and aggressive. Please share the specifics of what he said to your mother. Situation with the police officers, unable to leave him alone with the baby due to his impulsive erratic behavior. Very clear risk to other. Paranoid delusions. Feels there is a conspiracy out to get him. Feels someone is bugging our house. Feels my mother is interfering and calling the pediatrician, which didn't happen, I'm guessing. Edit 2. There's multiple reasons he could be acting like this. First episode psychosis, postpartum psychosis, delirium, drug-induced psychosis, medical reasons as many commenters pointed out. However, it doesn't matter its cause when yourself and your baby are at risk and he needs help. Often assessments in hospital are useless without the collateral of friends and family. Surprise surprise, he's able to hold it together and have reasonable discussions with you the night before, then taking the baby and hiding. I'm not sure where the best place is to get an assessment. We have clinicians via the CAT team that assess people in their homes. Likewise, we have a CAT team that assesses people in hospital. He needs specialized psychiatric care wherever that is offered. You are not safe with your baby and him in that house. He needs assessment and treatment. Do not go back to your house alone with him and the baby. Call your mom. Get help. He needs to be evaluated, and you need to protect yourself and your child. He's not stable. Do you have any friends or other family you can stay with until he is evaluated and treated? I'm scared for you, so please contact your mom. You need to protect yourself and your baby. If you determine it is in your best interest to leave, petition for an order of protection and legal custody of the baby immediately. People with untreated mental illness can be unpredictable. If there is no custody established, he can disappear with the baby, and there will be little you or the police can do about it. I tell you this because I have seen what can happen if there is no custody order. There was a woman in my town who had been in a relationship and had a child with a man who began showing signs of paranoia and mental illness. Over time, he isolated her from her family, was controlling of her every move. It became unbearable. After escaping to a safe house and then moving several states away with family, she thought she and the baby were finally safe. They weren't. He tracked her down at a public event and confronted her. He snatched the baby from her arms and disappeared. The police were called. They advised her to establish custody. She did so immediately, and the case was treated as a kidnapping. There was a multi-state FBI manhunt, and after several weeks the baby finally located. Despite having found her, the baby was not immediately returned to the mother. The reason being that the father had gone to court and been granted legal custody in his state. Weeks went by, and after much heartache and legal wrangling, the baby was finally returned to the mother. The father was originally charged with kidnapping, but the charges were dropped because there had been no custody established at the time the baby was taken. The decision to not charge him was appealed and overturned, and kidnapping charges reinstated. The reinstatement of charges was appealed to the state Supreme Court and ultimately overturned. The father was never prosecuted for anything. The kidnapping probably couldn't have been avoided. However, if an order of protection and custody had been established when they separated, the baby would have been returned immediately upon being located. Additionally, the father would have been charged with kidnapping. As a side note, the father's mental illness was never treated and never improved. Untreated mental illness can have serious consequences. Please stay safe.